Okay.
Now occupied by the Tower of David Museum of the History of Jerusalem, the Citadel is an imposing bastion just inside the city wall. The present-day structure dates principally from the 14th century and includes additions made in 1532 by Suleiman the Magnificent. However, excavations have revealed remains dating back to the 2nd century BC and indicate that there was a fortress here from Herodian times. This supports the view that this is the most likely site of Christ's trial and condemnation.
I don't know where they're getting that, but we finally made it back to the Citadel, and it's 11:07. We killed some time by doing the rampart walk. And we're getting ready to go on inside and spend probably the balance of the day here at the museum, get a bite to eat at the cafe. Alright, here's a view of the inside. There are 3 different routes you can take. There's the exhibit route, excavations route, and the observation route. We're going to start with the exhibit route, which begins up here on Faisal's Tower, which is where I am now. I'm giving you a view down in the archaeological excavation section. And we'll start on a chronological tour through the history of Jerusalem from this section here. Alright, now I'm up on the very top of the Tower of Faisal that Herod the Great built in honor of his, was it his son or his brother? I think his son. And this is the view that you have of the old city from the top of the tower here.
I'm going to point out what it is that you're looking at.
Well, this is all, you know, familiar stuff here. Coming on around to the Mount of Olives again.
The Armenian seminary over there.
Now hang on, I'm over here. Dome of the Rock, Al-Aqsa Mosque, St. Mary Magdalene's Church over there in the background. Coming on around, there's the Lutheran Tower that I showed you previously. And just coming in, that's the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. You can see there where they got the construction on it. What's that dome right there behind it, Phil? Oh, that's the rotunda. Those 2 domes, that's the big rotunda of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And then on over. Facing north now. Just coming into view is the hotel, Notre Dame Hotel. Coming back on around for a view of West Jerusalem. There's the King David Hotel again. And coming on around, you'll see the Tower of David, part of the Citadel walls. Back around toward the Armenian section and the Church of the Dormition. We got to go down now and see the film. Here's another great shot of the Temple Mount area. Just can't resist taking a few more of these pictures. Phil wanted to take a few shots down in the Armenian section. There is St. James Church. It's just to the left of Dormition. And then I'm going to come on around and show you Christ Church, which is just down here on my left. There it is. So we're looking down over the Armenian section and toward the Jewish quarter. Alright, we just finished with the film, and here we have the topology of Jerusalem. Not sure how well you can see this, but let me get you the different numbers. And then you can see where this is here. This would be looking east, I guess. And here is the model that they have. Showing you the topology of the surrounding area. And here's a scale model of the Citadel. I'm looking right now at the Faisal Tower, and I'm standing right where the Mamluk cupola is, right there, you see in the middle. And this kind of gives you an idea of what the Citadel would look like from up in the air. Here's the Tower of David.
I'd be wise to listen to this lady.
The small cupola and the hexagonal room beneath are part of the Mamluk rebuilding that took place around 1310.
So this is just over here, and there to the left you can see where the model of the Citadel is right there. What we're going to do now is we're going to start the chronological tour with the Canaanite period and work our way on around. What we're looking at down here is the remains of the wall that would have been here at the time of Herod the Great. The walls that we walked around this morning were from 1517. Suleiman the Magnificent built those walls, but this wall here is the remains of Herod the Great wall on up toward the arch. Over to the left is you'll see a little round patch. What is that little round patch, Phil?
Remains of a corner tower which was part of the fortifications built by the Umayyad dynasty in the late 7th century.
So as you're looking down into this area, what you're seeing is back in time to the Second Temple period. With this wall here. Here we are at the Canaanite period, and this is titled A Letter from Jerusalem. In the Royal Archives of the Tel al-Amarna in Egypt, 350 letters were written in cuneiform script. This tablet is one of the 6 letters to Egyptian kings by the ruler of Jerusalem. So this model of the tablet here would have been one of the first mentions of the city of Jerusalem that we found in history. Okay, it's a little bit quieter now that they've gone. I want to retake this shot of the model of the city of David. This is what it would have looked like during his time period. This is down south of the Temple Mount complex. This was before Solomon built the temple, so that entire Temple Mount area didn't even exist. It would have been on up above there. Evidently, David's palace area would have been in the northwest section, right in this area here. Alright, this section shows you the way the water flows. So from the Pool of Siloam, this is on the southeast side of the city of David. And I think there in the orange you have Hezekiah's tunnel. So this section right in here. I think it was Philip that Hezekiah walled up that section, and then he built the tunnel so that only he could get to the water. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So this is the Kidron Valley area?
Right.
Not sure if I have everything just perfect, but that gives you the idea what it looked like. Here we have now in the section of Cyrus and his decree letting them go back to Jerusalem and rebuild. And down here they have a model of the cuneiform edict of Cyrus the Great, recording the official version of his policy concerning subject nations. The original of this is in the British Museum. I think we actually saw the original to this there when we were there. Here is a really neat model of the southern, this is the southwest corner. We were on the steps that you see right there in front. These are the steps that Jesus would have gone up to the temple area. Beautiful model here with the people clustered around there on the steps. And coming down to that corner area, we actually were standing down right there at that corner where that pinnacle stone fell down, hit the street. Then pulling back, you see here Robinson's Arch. This archway would have been the way that Herod the Great, the Gentiles, would have entered this southern end of the Temple Mount area, on up through that way. And stretching out into the east is the Stoa. Beautiful columned area along the entire stretch of the mount. Here's another helpful shot. The first tower there, over to the left, is the Miriam. And then you go over, what's the second one there? Point those out.
It appears that it's Miriam, Faisal, Hippicus.
And you see how this area here is where we're at. And you see how the wall during Herod the Great's time, it goes on along and it stretches up into the east toward the Temple Mount area there. And that's where the priests would have gone in, right, Phil?
Yeah.
Here's a scene from the Romans attacking the city during the time of the revolt. There again, the Miriam and the Faisal towers that we saw over in the other picture. This is a model view of that same area. So here's another model looking down toward the Citadel area. You see the three towers there and the wall during Herod the Great's time. And this is all Second Temple time period models. And there's the view of the temple. And coming on back, you can see the entirety of the model there. Here's a shot of a stone from the Hulda Gate. The Hulda Gate, as you recall, is in the southern wall of the Temple Mount. You go up the steps where we're at, and the gates leading up onto the Temple Mount, called the Hulda Gate. And this is from this is an original stone from that section. Here is a very interesting model. This is Byzantine Jerusalem. You can see there those two slashes across the city. That's the Cardo stretching through the heart of the city. And here you can see on the left the Temple Mount. It's been wiped off, nothing much there. And we're over here in the Citadel area that's over here to the right. So this is what it would have looked like Byzantine era. Here real quick is the legend that went along with the model that you just saw. Some of the things may not be easily recognizable from the shots. So here are the here's a close-up with the numbers, and then over to what each thing is here. Here is a cutaway model of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This was commissioned by, in 326, by Helena, Constantine's mother. And this gives you an idea what it would have looked like maybe in its original form, with us going in right there in that section. And it stretches on around. whole area here would have been an impressive structure in its time, but it's been ravaged quite a bit over the years. In fact, there's another dome now, I think right about in that section there, as well as the bigger dome. Here's an interesting look at the Islamic world in the 10th century. And that's the sections in there. You can see how far their empire stretched across all of the Middle East except for Turkey, and then all the way across northern Africa up into Spain. So they had quite a dominance. According to tradition, the Prophet Muhammad was carried on the back of his winged horse from Mecca to Jerusalem. From the rock on the Temple Mount, the Prophet ascended to the highest heaven. This is the basis of the holiness of Jerusalem to Islam, originating in the Umayyad period. So here is a copy of the night journey and ascent to heaven of the Prophet Muhammad. Here's a really neat model of the Dome of the Rock in a cutaway view so that you can see what it would have looked like on the inside if we had been able to go inside. These models are just so nice. Here's Crusader Jerusalem. And again, I'll give you a view of the legend, and then I'll show you the actual model. So here are a few of the key numbers. And here's what they are. So you can see now the Dome of the Rock has been built there in the Temple Mount and where the city walls are. And this is the area we're at. Just really neat models of the different time periods. For reference, here's just a quick view at the First Crusade and the route that they took. Down through Italy, down through the Balkans, through Turkey, and then down from Damascus into Jerusalem. After the Umayyad period, in the 1100s, Saladin conquered Jerusalem, and so began the Ayyubid rule. And it was under the Ayyubid rule that all the Christian symbols were removed. Most of the churches converted into mosques and the Muslim religious institutions. On orders from Saladin, the Church of St. Anne, which we went inside and we heard the beautiful acoustics in there, it became a Muslim religious college. This is interesting here. In the days of Suleiman the Magnificent, he's with the Ottomans. He's the one that rebuilt the city walls in the time that we see them today. This is 1517. Here's some of the symbols that they inscribed into the walls. Various geometric designs and so on. So when you see these in any of the pictures that I took, they're from the Ottoman period. And it's probably the Ottoman period, 1500s on, that we see the most of as we wander around the walls of the old city. Alright, we're about to see a really impressive model of Jerusalem. And he did this model of the city, executed in zinc on a scale of 1 to 500. The topography is based on the Ordnance Survey of Jerusalem that was done in 1864-65. And on the architectural detail, he was advised by Swiss architect and scholar Konrad Schnick. It was displayed in the Ottoman Pavilion of Vienna, Universal Exhibition 1873, and then it was shown around, put into storage, and they forgot about it, didn't find it until 1984. And it's down here, we're just about to see it here. So here's the model, and it is really amazing. 1 to 500 scale. This is the Damascus Gate, north section of the Ottoman wall around the city. And I'll go around and give you various views of the model from different angles. Temple Mount there, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Dome of the Rock. Here we are down south, looking over toward the Mount of Olives, and down to the Kidron Valley. So this is what the city would have looked like in the 1860s. So you can see down there, the southern part, how much archaeological excavation took place to expose what we have today. None of the steps were visible, all that stuff got dug out. The Citadel, over here to the left, looks, it was restored during the Ottoman period. And it looks pretty much as it does today. Some 140 years, 50 years later. Down here at the south, there's really nothing to show for the city of David. Just hillsides and such. There's the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the dome's there, looking east, and the city stretching out before us. You can see up north of the Damascus Gate the way it looked. This is all city now, all built up with roads. Times have changed quite a bit. How big is this model, would you say, Phil? Maybe 20 feet by 20 feet wide? Maybe 25 by 25?
No, it's not that big. It's maybe 15 by 20, 25.
Philip just pointed out that this is an interesting look at the Garden Tomb, Gordon's Calvary. There's what it would have looked like back in 1860. This area right up here. It's looks quite different today. Here we are looking down into one of the excavation areas on the excavation route. These were stones used by the Seleucid army to pound the walls of the Hasmonean period. We've even got a pink balloon down there. But here they are. Here we are, we're down here on the second temple wall here at the Great Wall. And this here is remains of some towers, part of the city fortifications from the end of the Second Temple period. It was built on an earlier tower. I think we're just about done with the Citadel. We're gonna wrap it up and go get some shawarma.